In this video, I'm going to show you how I got to the meme score in the previous raid event and the tactics you could use yourself to achieve high event scores. When I released part 1 of this mini series almost 3 weeks ago, I noted that it took about 90 runs from max morale all the way to 0 and that it took almost an hour and a half of continuous play. Well, Reddit user Azur Lane took it one step further by using a formula to get a more accurate estimate of how long you would theoretically be able to grind for. I do recommend you check it out. Part of the reason for the morale drain in that event was due to the lack of downtime in between fights. For normal event stages, after finishing a battle, you are sent back to the stage map and have to select another enemy. In raid events, this is not the case. Morale is only given every 6 minutes, but even if light morale refresh is only a few seconds late before the next fight, the 0 morale indicator will interrupt any auto run. For a fleet to recover from 0 to 150 at a rate of 60 morale per hour, it will take at most 2.5 hours, which is a long time out of commission and would not suffice for attempting any sort of leadable position. Now we will go into some of my strategies to manage morale as well as how to efficiently grind for event points. Firstly, have a second fleet ready to swap to. That way, if a first fleet needs to rest, you can continue to farm the event with little downtime. The second fleet should also ideally be in the dorm so as to not quickly lose morale. The longer your backup fleet can be used, the longer your main fleet has to recover. If you are doing standard event stages, that second fleet can be your boss fleet and all you would have to do is swap their roles around. Second, while it may not seem logical, I recommend switching fleets once their morale dips below 40. At a recovery rate of 50 morale per hour, it would only take around 70 minutes for them to recover back to 100, whereas if you change them to 0, the process would be 42 minutes longer. Just make sure not to get carried away if you don't want your ships to lose affinity. Third, stock up on oil. No matter if there's an oil cap or not, continuous grinding will suck away your oil slowly but surely. For the raid event, I started with a massive reserve of 24,000 oil, but by the end, I was down to double digits. You can store oil through mail from maintenance compensation or by buying a trade license. Only buy oil with gems if there is no other option left. A tip for whales would be to use married ships when doing long grinds. As stated in the last video, married ships get an additional 10 morale per hour compared to normal ships, which becomes more apparent the longer you use them for. This last advice is not mandatory, as the gains are not as significant and not everyone has the means to have an excess of married ships. So that's how you can save morale and oil, but how can you consistently farm all day? If you play Azur Lane on an emulator, being able to farm consistently shouldn't be an issue, as you can have it run in one instance while doing other tasks on your PC. Feel free to mute the game and listen to any other genre of music you like. For people playing Azur Lane on their phones, there are still ways to pass the time. If homebound, feel free to boot up your game console and play another game in the meantime. Whether that be an online shooter or JRPG, you can pay AO little attention. But what if you are on the go? On some Android devices, you can put Azur Lane in a split screen window and have another app open at the same time. I personally used this method whenever I was on the bus and needed to complete some more files back during the recently past raid event while also looking at Discord. Unfortunately for iOS devices, this feature is not available to such a full extent. If battery is a concern, don't forget that you can enable settings that decrease the FPS and the brightness of your mobile device while doing auto search in particular. While I give this advice about gacha game grinding, I do have to remind everyone to take breaks every now and again. Exercise, reading books, ideally not staring at a screen. Even if our Shipgirls may be adorable, just like they need to have a breather, you need one as well. Before I wrap up this video, I want to talk about these final notes. Yorktown 2's event for a limited time had an Onsen system. It could store up to 10 ships and increase the morale gain of any ship in it by 10, up to the maximum cap of 150. This effect stacks with the dorm and marriage bonuses, making it possible for ships to recover at a rate of 70 morale per hour. Unfortunately, it is unclear whether or not this will make a return. Thank you for watching part 2 of Life Guide to No Life. I have more videos planned for this month and beyond, so subscribe and stay tuned.